Welcome to Scrappy to Scalable, the podcast where we explore human-centered AI designed to level the playing field, empowering small and mid-sized businesses to compete with the giants. Welcome, everybody. My name is Felipe Crook. I am one of the co-founders of Caldor Dynamics. And if you are a nonprofit, or if you're thinking about starting a nonprofit, you definitely want to watch this episode because my next guest is Janneh Wright. He is the founder and CEO of Primus Business Management. His company delivers a full service accounting, HR, and operations support to nonprofits and small businesses. And he's spent decades advancing economic empowerment in Black, Indigenous, and people of color communities. And he's developed a really powerful framework built on the 3 C's: compliance, culture, and consistency. Janneh, I am really excited to have you on the podcast. Welcome to Scrappy to Scalable.
Thank you for having me, Felipe.
How are you today?
I'm good. It's a good day so far.
Good. I'm excited to chat with you because I think you have a really interesting story. And I want to start right at the very beginning. What made you want to start Primus Business Management?
So it's one of those, this is not what I planned to do kind of stories, right? So I graduated in college in 2001, September 11th, right around that time. And I really wanted to be an analyst. I have a bachelor's degree in economics from the State University of Buffalo. So where I wanted to expect it to work was going to be the World Trade Center area. So once September 11 happened, my entire game plan was just like thrown out, right? So as I came back to New York City, there's a lot of people who are in my field in the accounting, the finance world, whose job prospects really were scattered because a lot of companies were like leaving New York City at the time. So I started watching people, seeing when my friend's family had a company that she was running, my sister had a company she was running. And what I noticed from them both was that every day they would take home these big bags of paperwork that they said they can do at nighttime after the kids go to sleep. And every day they brought it back to the office because no one has time to do work at home. It's just not going to happen. So me being bored and had nothing else to do, I said, hey, let me help you with that. I know accounting, I know IT, I know all these different parts. So I started helping for free, just doing the work. And from doing that, one of my first clients, I guess, introduced me to someone else. And that person introduced someone else. And I just started realizing that there's become like this, oh, this is a niche. This is something that people are looking for. Not everyone goes into business to do business. They go into business, especially in the nonprofit field, because they want to help the world. They want to save the world. They want to help people. But sometimes people forget that a nonprofit is also business. So my goal was, how do I go in now with this business mentality and help them design out the business aspect of it? So when I started, I was doing everything that you consider back office, right? So marketing, HR, accounting, IT, the works, like this business handyman. But after a few years, you realize, one, I can't do all that. It's just way too much. I spread myself way too thin. So now my team started thinking about, okay, what is the best items, the most important items that drive CEOs crazy, that keeps them up at night, that makes them scared of going to work or dealing with people. And the first one is always going to be employees, right? Employee issues are scary, right? Next one is accounting. No one wants the IRS to come to them. No one wants to deal with that situation. So most people do it as I need to do for taxes, but not realizing the power and the information that you can get from the accounting. And we were doing that for many years and it became successful. The goal of like, let me take these things off of my clients' hands so they could do more became successful. They were able to do more. So then we added into operations because they were doing more and needing more assistance. So that's how we got into this. It's literally a really organic design of how this happened. It wasn't something I was planning to do, but it just, because of the environment that I was in, I had to make some new game plan of what was going to happen to me for the rest of my life.
I find it really interesting that you have to build so much trust with these people, especially if they're giving you their accounting.
Yes.
I mean, how do you build that trust with a nonprofit to
It's
give them all of their secrets, basically?
No, it's definitely a trusting, right? The way you come off at people when you first talk to them, I talk about ethics. I talk about who I am as a person. My family will tell you, like, I am one of the most ethical minded person in the world. So you don't have to worry that today is never going to try to do anything unethical. I'll tell you what's happening. I'm very much accountable, very transparent. Because you're right. What I do, given that I do these 2 worlds, right? I do the accounting and I do HR, right? I know a lot about financials, personal. I do a lot of things about them. So when I deal with, when I talk about how I am with my ethics and how I hire and how I look for in my staff, they can be very much calm and comfortable with giving us information because they know we're going to do everything in the power to secure all this information. So even like down to how every one of my staff gets one of my computers. I send them a computer no matter where they're living. They're working off of my property, so I can shut it down if I need to. We use like those new programs of LastPass, so only person who actually knows their password is me. Nobody else can. They can sign in, but nobody's seen the passwords. I can change it if I want to. So I do a lot of things to make sure that we are securing our clients' information and that they're getting as much comfort and security around what they give us.
What made you want to get into the nonprofit space? I think one of the things that you had mentioned in our pre-intro call to the podcast is that you really want to work with community driven companies and nonprofits. What made you want to go that direction? Because I know that it's not a ton of money in the nonprofit world. So, what made you want to do that?
The funny part of the story is, my mother's a nurse, my father's a teacher, my sister's a teacher, my brother's a police officer, and I went to
Wow.
business school, right? So, so I was outside the lines of what my family does to help the world. So I always thought about how could I use the skills that I've assessed and attained to give back. And when I grew up, I came to this country when in 1985, and you saw a lot of organizations coming to neighborhoods that needed support, right? The food banks and the clothing, and so a lot of those organizations came in and then they shut down and they left, right? And it's always like, what's going on here? Why are these companies coming in? They have really great ideas and they have really great values of how they want to help the world, but the reality of their business was not properly set up, right? They didn't have all of the necessities behind them to create a powerful, long-lasting business. So when I thought about the skills I had and how I'm not going to be the one to go out there and save the world, but I can facilitate another organization doing it, it was instantaneously like, this is what I want to do, right? If I can keep 500 organizations open much longer than they're scheduled to be open, right? They burn past the 3-year curse and burn past the 5-year curse. Like I've been lucky enough to be in this for 23 years,
Oh.
and there's not many companies who can say that. So I want to give that to all the other small businesses, all the other nonprofits, that they can actually survive longer. Because the longer you survive, the bigger your impact, right? The
Yeah,
more people you
more people
touch.
you can help.
Exactly. So that's why I do this, right? I want to be able to, like, I'm not the guy who's going to try to save the world. That's not me, right? I'm not going to go out there and do all these things, but I have the skills to help the people who want to do it at a different level and stick around for longer and help more people and impact more people.
What did your family think when you decided, like, hey, I'm going to business school? But they're like, what?
I don't understand. I was either, I guess for them, I was either going to become like a doctor or or a preacher. I said business school, like, okay, sure, whatever happens.
Well, you come from a long line of family of people that like to give back and
Yes.
serve. So I think that's probably one of the reasons why you decided to go into that field and help nonprofits. I think
Yeah, absolutely.
it's very cool.
Absolutely. I always tell people I grew up with my grandmother and my mother, and their influence on how they treated people. Right. They kind of instilled in me this ideal of, regardless of anything, my empathy is the strongest character I have.
Mm.
So being able to feel for other people and understand why other people would do something, regardless, even if they do it against me. Right. There's always a backstory. No one is born evil. No one is born to do crazy things, but there's a backstory to it. And if you can present and understand and have that empathy for people, your life will be a little better and you'll be able to help more people as you start to see where they're coming from.
Can you say that a little bit louder for people in the back? I mean, honestly, the lack of empathy in our country right now is really scary. So
It is.
leaning into your philosophy and the empathy side of the business, I think is really really powerful, and I think it's probably the reason why you're around for 23 years, because you really do care about people, and it's not just about you and your bottom line. You're trying to help them and their bottom line and their mission that they're trying to achieve.
Sometimes to my deficit, but yes,
It's a tricky balance, right?
it
You
is.
obviously have a business.
Yeah.
They have a business too. And I think let's go back to a little bit of what you were talking about with nonprofits not thinking of themselves as a business. How do you get them to shift their mindset a little bit from this altruistic, mission driven company to a business that has a mission?
One of the things that every nonprofit has a mission, right? They have a goal in mind. When you start asking them what is their personal goal in mind, right? What's going to happen to what do they intend for themselves, right? Is this the company that's gonna disappear and one day retire? Is this company gonna pass on to somebody? Is this company gonna outlast you? When you start talking about that, you look at your business differently, right?
Mm.
Because if you're seeing a mission that is not going to be fixed in your lifetime, but you want to help start that process, that means you have to develop a system, a process, a company that's going to outlast you. Right. So you can't do accounting by checkbook. You can't do, hire everybody in the world because you want to help the world, because you have to do the business side. I think what some people get issues with, what some people mix up is the word nonprofit does not mean that you're not making a profit, right? It just means that nobody is making a profit. The company still needs to make money. It still needs to get all the money. It still needs to bring in more money than it's spending, so that way it can continue operations into next year. So it's not that you don't make a profit in nonprofit. It's that no person, like in a for-profit organization, the net revenue that's created goes into my pocket. In a nonprofit, there's nobody who's getting it into their pocket. It's going to recycle back into the company. So when you start talking to them about those two things, right? How is this company going to outlast you? Where do you want to see this company when you're done and you want to retire? And the idea that it is a profitable organization, you can feed your family off this, you can make money off of it, but the profit that's made from it has to be recycled back into the organization to help more people. Those are the starting conversations that we have with people.
How often is it that that light bulb goes off for them? Like they're like, oh, this is more than just me. Obviously, they got into it for a reason,
Yeah.
their mission, but connecting their ultimate vision to the business side of it, how often do you get that light bulb moment? And that must be very cool when you actually do get that moment.
It is, because it's that moment when they start asking the questions, right? The questions start coming out, and like they ask more and more questions. You're starting to realize a lot of people, they're starting to understand this, right? They're starting to understand why I'm so particular about how we record revenue, why I'm so particular about how I have my team design your employee manual. Why are we so particular when we ask you questions like, what is your value, right? Because what is it that in this company, what's the value you want to present at all times? And we're very particular on making sure we answer those questions, because then they start to realize this is connected to the growth longevity of their organization. So as they start to see that, the questions start to come out. They ask more and more questions, and they get happier. And it's a great feeling to see it happen. I've been lucky enough to see it happen a lot of times.
Have you ever had a moment in your business or your career where you were like, okay, I can't do this anymore. This is too much. This is too hard. And how did you get through that?
I think if any entrepreneur ever says they've never thought about that, they're lying.
Okay. They're
They're
totally lying.
completely lying. I mean, it's hard. My wife is the new to business. Her company's like 5 years old at this point, and every once in a while she gets that anxiety hit. I'm like, yeah, welcome to be the entrepreneur. This is what we do. Every couple of months it comes on, your heart starts pounding. You know something is coming. You don't know what it is, but you push through it, right? It's the same way. I know people don't like hearing it, but this company is my first child, right? And I'm watching it grow up. I seen where it is. I'm watching it get into maturity, and I'm going to watch it as it starts to really mature into a full-fledged, longevity, 100-year company, right? But you just have to push through it. You're never going to be 100% perfect. Things are going to happen. You're going to fail. You're going to move on. And one thing I love talking to people about, that word failure, because everybody says it, fail often. The definition of fail is not the same for everybody, right? Your failure does not mean that your company has to shut down, right? Failure can mean that you lost a client. It hurts. That's a failure. Now you have to look back and see why you lost the client, how you make sure it never happened again, put everything in place. But failure does not mean that is the end of your organization. It means that is the end of something, and how you're going to adjust to it. But it's a natural occurrence. Like, I've been doing this for as long as I do it, and still to this day, I get that email from a client, we need to talk, and my heart goes, oh crap. I'm nervous for the next 2-3 days. But it's happened probably 100 times in my career. But it still makes me anxious when those emails come in. But as that client leaves, a new client's gonna come in. Something else is gonna happen, and it'll keep growing. So you get to the point where you start to realize that this is the cycle of business, right? You have $1 million companies who are in a cash flow crunch, right? You have $200 companies who are cash flow pure. It's part of the cycle. It's going to go up, it's going to come down, it's going to go up, it's going to come down. You're going to hire the wrong person, you're going to hire the right person, the best person in the world is going to leave the company, you can hire somebody else. It's part of it. So at some point in your life, it's not going to stop. The anxiety is not going to stop, but you're going to stop blowing up the world because of it, I guess is what I see.
And I think that is
super true in any business. And the way that you deal with the disappointments
Yes.
really affects how you move forward. Like
Mhm.
in my business, I always like, okay, I lost a client or I messed up a contract or something happened that was totally out of my control. I always try to make it, okay, what is my responsibility in this situation? How did I get into this situation? How did I lead down the wrong path? What can I learn from here? I
Yeah.
think that is the most critical part anytime an entrepreneur fails is
Yeah.
really taking ownership for the failure and figuring out, okay, I learned a lesson and I'm not going to do that again.
Exactly.
And it's hard, being an entrepreneur, you have to let go of like your ego
Yes.
so many times. And if
Yes.
you're not willing to do that, I don't think you're going to be very successful.
No, it's hard. Like,
It's hard.
there's that said entrepreneurs are the only people in the world who's going to leave a 8 hour shift to work 16 hours a day, right? It's hard. You gotta
Sure.
let go because you gotta think of same thing. You gotta think of the long run. What exactly is it trying to get out of this, right? Like, yes, entrepreneurship lets me feed my family. What it also lets me do is I'm at every one of my daughter's soccer games. I'm at every one of their recitals in school. I can go anytime I want to. I can go to their school. I can pick them up for lunch. I have the freedom to do all this stuff. So that's what's important to me, right? I always had this bad, when you think back to like when we were growing up and like those 80s and 90s sitcoms where the business dad, everybody was always mad at him because he's never there, right?
Mhm.
That's one of my fears. I don't want to be that dad who's never there because I'm always working. So this allows me to be here and be there for my kids at all times. And that's where I want to do. That's why I work so hard for what I do.
That's amazing. I think that it really shows in your values because you can be empathetic to other people's needs because you are really clear about your needs and your family's needs and your boundaries. You're human still. Like you
Yeah.
have to live your life. It's not just about business. Going back to your three C's, can you talk a little bit more about that? When we talked about before this podcast, I think that really resonated with me. And I feel like a lot of people will really learn from that. So talk a little bit more about your three C's framework.
Sure. So the three C's framework came about from, when my team was deciding how do we interact with our clients, what is the mission that we want to do, how are we going to get them to where we want to get them. We kind of designed this three C's as the framework for action plan within each department, not just the company as a whole, but each department and the company. So the three C's stand for uh, compliance, culture, and consistency. And each one of these items are by itself a very powerful part of the organization, and together even bigger and more powerful item. So when you talk about consistency, really talking about the foundation of our organization, right? So you're making sure that you have all the right insurances, you're registered properly, you're doing your taxes, all those things that are compliance mentality that you have them. And so this is like the foundation. And one of the things that is not just having them, is having them in a space that you can easily grab them, right? So if someone's trying to give you a loan or you're going after a grant, you don't have to go looking through 3,000 emails trying to find your information. It's all in a very succinct place. The compliance is really about putting the kind of system in place to allow you to ensure that you're a viable organization, that you're legally sound, that you have everything, that the foundation of the organization is very strong and secure. So that allows you to be a little more at ease for the organization. If you've been in conversations with like the workman's comp board, you understand that one error can cost you $16,000 and nobody wants to go through that kind of headache. So we take from compliance and we go into culture. Now, culture we consider like the heart of the organization, right? It's how does every single stakeholder to your organization interact with the company, whether it's an employee, a customer, a funder, a loan officer? How do they see your organization? How do they interact with it? What's the mechanism that they are enjoying it? Because that's what's going to help you grow your organization. Because people love to come to work every day. People feel safe at work. People love to work with you. People know that they're going to get a certain system from you every single time you work with you because they're happy to come there. So building the culture of organization is paramount to the growth, right? So that's the heart. The last part is the consistency part. We consider this engine, right? The engine is how things are going to move. It's going to keep doing the same thing over and over again, the same exact way. You've incorporating your compliance, you're incorporating your culture, and now you're doing the same thing. So everybody feels really secure about the organization. One of the examples I started giving about the consistency part, because it came up to me a couple months ago, and I was like, yeah, this is real. It's like I had a restaurant that I love to go to. They make this thing called a Calypso steak, right? The steak was well seasoned. It was great. So I used to go there at least once a week, once every 2 weeks to get this Calypso steak because it was great. They changed chefs. It did not taste the same and it annoyed
Mm.
me, right? And the fact that the way it was made wasn't really designed in our recipe. Oh, we make Calypso steak, so we put all these kind of seasons on it, rather than this is exactly what needs to be done. It changes. So that's like the McDonald's model, the Burger King model, right? They make it the exact same way, if it's good for you or not, to ensure that it's going to be consistent for you. And that's what us as business owners need to always make sure that we are providing the consistency in our deliverables, consistency in how we deal with clients, how we deal with staff, how we deal with everything. So that those three things together, if you do them right, and like I said, it's those three models in HR, those three models in programming, those three models in finance, you will have a well-rounded company that has that framework that allows you to continue and grow your business into the future.
Where I find that people start to lose their consistency is when they start to grow.
Yes.
So how do you keep that consistency when you're growing? And when you are growing, you might need to adjust what was happening before. Because what works when you first started is not going to work when you're growing, and it's not going to work when you're really scaling. So how do you make those adjustments when you are growing?
So one of the things I always talk about, and you mentioned growth. So one of the things I always tell potential employees as they're about to hire their first staff is that you need to create the culture before you hire your first staff, right? Because if you don't create that culture, the staff will with the questions and stuff they're asking. Now, how do you create that is through the SOPs. And the SOPs is what leads to the consistency. Not just like as a owner of organization, we've all been guilty of the bottleneck situation where everything got to come through the owner, every question, every answer, that slows things down. So when you as a leader start to realize that you need to implement this 3C model, one of the first things you need to start thinking about is let me write down the processes, the SOPs of how I want things to be done. Once you get them on paper, now you gotta let go. Right?
Mm.
You can't be the
That's the
person
hard
that might
part,
come
right?
to. You gotta let go, gotta delegate, gotta put it in somebody else, have the team in place who can manage these things for you. Because if you're still the bottleneck, then you're gonna be the hamper for the consistency to happen. So those SOPs are vital to ensuring the consistency is going. The same thing, like the recipe is an SOP, right? Tells you exactly what to do, and I write it down. So you need to create those kind of SOPs for your organization to ensure that consistency is always part of it.
What is your biggest misconception of small business owners have about outsourcing fractional services? Like basically, you're offering a fractional service for accounting, for human resources, and operational fractional services. How do you get them to trust that, first of all? And then the misconception that they have about relinquishing over a part of their business?
So I think first let me start with the misconceptions. Outsourcing was a big buzzword a couple years ago, and then because of the way people thought about outsourcing, they kind of like split into parts. So when people think outsourcing, they automatically thinking offshoring, right? So that's the first part you have to get over. Like not all outsourcing means that you're going to offshore your information to another country or people you can't touch or see. We outsource. Most of my staff is here. Some of my staff is in other countries as well, but it's owned by me because again, my control over my systems is important. But that's the first part. I think people have a connotation that outsourcing might be international, and some people not don't want that. The second one is that it's going to be expensive, right? Your outsourcing should not be more expensive than you hiring somebody internally, right? And if it does add up, you look at the resource variation, right? So in some cases, my cost might be higher than you hiring one person, but you're also getting four people from me. So you got to look at that resource part as well, but understanding that you're going to get more knowledge base into your organization quicker and more efficiently than one person. The other part that I talk to people about when it comes to why this is a good option is the training part. As a business owner, you don't have the background or probably don't want to train a management accountant, right? There's probably no way in the world you actually want to sit with this person and have to train them and talk to them about, how we doing these things. I do that for my clients, right? So I do the training of my team. So then we just deliver a product to you, a deliverable, and we go through the financials information with you. So those kind of things is what we talk about, right? So is the training, is the efficiencies, economies of scale, is the instantaneously injection of knowledge into your organization by outsourcing, right? Like you try to hire one person, you're gonna have that one person. By hiring Primus, you now have a CFO, a CHRO, a COO, all within your phone calls. Now you have all these resources to help your organization really grow and manage up.
I have a business coach that says the reason why you hire a business coach is to collapse time. When you're hiring a company like Primus or a fractional, any fractional C-suite or a specific person that has a lot of knowledge, you're collapsing all that time. Think
Yes.
about how much time that a business owner is saving by not having to train them and not having to do all of their systems, not having to create all their systems. Like
Yes.
you already know how these systems should work, and it makes it the implementation so much faster.
Yes.
That to me right there is worth it to hire somebody that has all this knowledge.
One of my very first clients, this is probably in 2005. After working with her for a year, she was so excited that she went on vacation for the first time in 3 years. And that's what she kept telling everybody. Having this organization come in and take these things off my hand that I would normally have to take home with me and try to do at the dinner table on Sunday night. I'm going on vacation for a week. And that made her so happy. I think that's one of the unsung things about hiring organizations like us is that you will get back time, right? Time, you can get back time to work more and do more things that's getting you into your business, or you get back time to go on vacation, get back time with more of your family, because the things that you're trying to take home and do after the kids go to sleep is being done by somebody else. Now you can actually go home and go to sleep and not have to worry about it. So that's part of it as well. Like that time, collapsing time. Yes, you can do a lot of things inside a company, but you can also relax a little bit, go on vacation, go do something else to allow you to refresh your mind and come back more clear on what the business is doing and where you want to take it.
Do you have a story of a client that you've worked with that you've seen how great the impact was from their aspect and from your helping them create that? Do you have a specific story that really
Yeah.
stands out to you?
A few years ago, I worked with a nonprofit organization that was with a fiscal sponsor. For no one doesn't know, it's fiscal sponsors organization that allows your program to utilize their 501c3 and financial status because they don't
Mm.
want to go and do all that work. So all they have to do is do their part, and the other company's going to do all the taxes, pay all the bills, and all things like that. So they work with fiscal sponsor, and the fiscal sponsor was very rigid in how it does certain things than this nonprofit's leadership liked. Right. So they decided to go off on their own, and they hired us to help them transition out and then manage all the processes. So at the time, I think I had about 5 staff, and the staff was always in conflict with the organization. So as they started to grow on their own with us doing all their back office services, helping them design out the culture, helping them design out the paperwork, all the SOPs, you saw them become a more well-rounded organization, right? The camaraderie, the working together, the collaboration was a lot tighter because they didn't have to worry about fighting with these organizations. One thing that the owner did, they very quickly ramped up to having over like $4 million in revenue in a year because
Wow.
his ability to do fundraising was phenomenal. But he didn't have to worry about these things in the back end. He didn't have to worry about the employee issues or the financial issues. So he was just literally just focused on program and fundraising. So he was bringing in money like crazy. I went to this conference with him talking on the stage. One of the things he said on the stage made me very happy. He's like, do you know what bills you have to pay this week? And the other CEOs like, yeah, we know. When it's payroll, yeah, we know. He's like, I don't know none of that. That got nothing to do with me. The Primus team takes care of that. I'm focused on my deliverables. I'm focused on my fundraising because I trust them that it's gonna get done on time and get done correct. So it allows those things that your brain is split up into HR, program. All his brain was picking about was program and fundraising, and that organization grew very quickly and very rapidly because of that.
That's a fascinating point, because if you think about it, when you are a founder, when you are an owner, you are the accountant, the HR person, the janitor, the therapist to your employees that
Yes.
having a bad day. You wear so many different hats. And the fact that he's able to say, I don't know, is first of all, it's kind of shocking that a founder says that,
You let it
because
go.
almost every founder knows every single detail. But he was freed up to do what he's really good at.
Yes.
And I think if people empower their employees, if they empower themselves to do what they're really good at, they will really flourish. And then you will really see the kind of growth that something like that's a perfect story for
It was a beautiful thing. Like I'll turn around and say that one of the things he taught me is on how I deal with my staff. One day we were talking back and forth now, I was telling him the same kind of issues that I was having. And he told me to write down my entire job description, right? And Then
was like
from that
4
job
pages
description,
long.
figure out what I want to do, right? And then figure out who's going to do the rest, right? So it's the same mentality when you're doing with outsourcing organizations. Write down that description of all the stuff that you have on your plate, right? Figure out the stuff that you want to do, and the rest of it, outsource it. Find somebody else to take care of it, because that's going to give you more time to do the things that you want to do at a much higher rate and a much more efficiency rate.
It is physically impossible to be good at every aspect of business.
Correct.
It's just not possible. And a lot of people, they have to be somewhat, competent just to get the things rolling.
Yes.
But I think AI is starting to supplement a lot of people's lack of ability or skills. I'm
Yeah.
seeing that with the people that we're helping implement AI solutions into their businesses. Like, yeah, I'm not good at this. I'm like, that's okay. You don't have to be good at that. We can help a tool to supplement your weaknesses. Are you finding AI implementations in your business personally or the businesses that you're helping? What are you seeing out there in terms of implementation of AI?
Yeah, I mean, AI, it's not like I was going to say AI is coming. It's not coming. It's here, right?
Yeah.
And as you said, you utilize, my analogy for people is like AI is the calculator, whatever, 50, 60 years ago, right? People didn't like it, they didn't want to use it, but they realized that in the hands of a professional, the calculator is a powerful tool. Same way, in the hands of a professional, AI could be a crazy powerful tool, but you have to know how to use it well. And I've seen people try to implement it without help, right? I've seen people try to do things on their own, and it works ish. But the more help you get, the better you use it, the more you realize how it can really enhance the work that you're doing, the better it's going to be. So I've seen companies who've used it really, really well, right? And I've seen companies who have not, and just like they use the chat GPT alone, and that's all they ask it. They ask it the most simple questions. They don't know understand how to really organize it and make it really become a real powerful tool. But it's here. And if you want to get to that next level in this day and age, you have to realize that AI has to be part of that conversation.
I totally agree with you in terms of the strategy part of it, though. You can't just implement AI into a company. Like,
Correct.
you have to understand the ins and outs. You have to have a strategy for implementation, a strategy for adoption.
Yep.
There's going to be a lot of people who are going to be very afraid of implementing AI because they're afraid that it's going to take their job.
Yes.
So, but it's not going to replace the human part of a company, especially on a nonprofit that is so mission driven.
Yep.
You have to infuse that with your AI strategy. Otherwise, it's completely going to fail.
No, absolutely, absolutely. I think, like I said, it's like any other tool that was created. You can't be scared of it because it's not going to go away. There's nothing you can do about it. It's here. So what are you going to do about it? You could either implement it or you could keep hiding from it and let somebody else come take your spot in wherever your business is in.
So, as we wrap up here, what would you say that you want entrepreneurs to take away from your story and from your company?
I think the idea that business is hard, right? And the more resources you have around you, the stronger your business is going to get, right? So outsource, whether you're outsource or you hiring or you delegating or you implementing this 3C model into your organization, the resources are an important part of your organization, and you have to utilize it. Whether same thing, whether it's implement AI or anything else, resources are the part of businesses that make them strive, make them get to that next level. You're not going to be a solopreneur and want to create a multimillion-dollar organization. It's just not going to work. You're not going to be able to grow your business without resources. So as you go through that process and you get stuck and you get annoyed and think about who you have around you. Think about how you can implement new processes. Like AI is a really good tool, and it can help you really design and think quicker and put things in place that make things move faster. So don't be scared of asking for help. Don't be scared of outsourcing. Don't be scared of AI, because these are all ways that can help you win in your business.
And if somebody wants to work with you in your company and they're a nonprofit or a community driven mission company, how would they get a hold of you?
So you can go to the website, which is www.primusco.com, or you can email me directly. It's just jwright, WRIGHT, at primusco.com.
Janneh, I really appreciate your time today. And it's inspiring to see a business owner helping other nonprofits for a really good cause and doing a really good job at it. So thank you
Thank
very
you. I
much
appreciate
for
that.
joining the podcast. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Have a great day.
You too.